Rahubat Nuya Kalunin. Alright, this is going to be the second video in our series of our kingdom videos that we're going to be releasing so that everybody can start familiarizing themselves with what's really going on within our growing nation. Now, as the days go past, things are going to be happening, matriculating. Some of the preparations that we've been doing over the past years, are starting to come to fruition, and some things are starting to manifest. So, stay tuned, because when things start moving, they're going to really start moving. So I need everyone to be sure that they are familiar and aware and comfortable with the structure that we're establishing for KaLu. All right. This video is going to be about our Constitution. And I'm just going to I'm gonna go over a little bit of it just so you can kind of understand it. But eventually I want everybody to on the council to have their own copies. If you don't have a copy of the Constitution, let me know. If you are a signer on the Constitution, definitely make sure you have a copy so that you can read and go over it. If you see some things in there that need to be ratified, let me know. And if we need to make some additions, some changes, something like that, we can go ahead and do it. Once the revised book of KaLu is released, it will have a constitution, our initial constitution, in there. And any ratification after that will be a whole nother thing as we are growing and building our thing. All right, so now, of course, our constitution is going to be in our language, our national language, KaLuic. And this is part of the translation that I've been working on. Excuse me. I will be completing this soon so that we can implement our entire constitution package. Now, as we move forward, one of the things that I want you all to remember and pay attention to is that any types of writings and things that we start putting forth, we want to make sure that our writings, all of them are in our language first. So when we start creating documents and we start putting together treaties and we start doing all these things, everything will be done in our language first. So that's one of the main reasons why learning our language, using our language, creating practical environments where the language lives is so important. That actually is going to be one of the jobs that that the budget handles. Not one, but a number of roles will hold that particular title, because their job will be to create an environment where our language lives and nothing else is able to enter. All of the pillars of our nation will be employed in making sure that that environment stays sacred, and the only ones that will be allowed in that environment are those who are able to speak the language. Even if you can only speak it a little bit, but know that only thing that you will utter will be KaLuic, you'll have access. But anyone there's no let me check it out, there's no let me see what it looks like, no, it's not for you. And we have to understand that protecting that is of utmost importance, because that represents the beginning of our strength. So our Constitution, our preamble, I'm going to read the preamble and I'm going to go into a little bit of the first article. The preamble is: we the people of the nation state of KaLu, as the amalgamated tribes of our indigenous ancestors, in order to restore our indigenous status, protect the integrity of our matriarchy, peacefully and productively practice all cultural rites, rituals, ceremonies, and celebrations, perpetuate a prosperous future for our posterity, ensure that the rights of our people are sealed and can never be taken away, provide a common defense, and ensure that the liberty of our people can never be removed, do hereby ordain and establish this Constitution for the divine nation state of KaLu. So our preamble basically is acknowledging that we will be of the amalgamated tribes of our indigenous ancestors. So our Native American ancestors, our African ancestors, South American ancestors, wherever we find our family lineage tied up into, as we are coming together to do what we're doing, we will make up KaLu. Now, understanding that as we do that, We're going to have a lot of different tribal factions that begin to matriculate within KaLu. And as that happens, the builder system is set up so that we can begin to what's the word, identify and classify the various tribes that will exist within KaLu. Tribe only really means that you come from a specific cultural heritage and lineage, which gives you a certain nature. Your habits, your attitudes, your practices, and things like that will be of a certain frequency, and we'll be able to create tribes within our nation that will be able to govern themselves according to communities and villages, but it will not interrupt or interfere with the grand purpose of our nation. All right, so our first article starts off with section 1. This government established as a constitutional matriarchy. So basically the nation of KaLu is a matriarchal government that where the government receives their power from the matriarchy. Now, this is something that I want all KaLu'nan to understand. The Constitution giving the power to the matriarchy is significant because this is what we want to make sure that we have on paper. Once this has happened and has taken place completely, and we've moved to the next levels of our development, it won't be necessary for the Constitution to do that. It'll be something that happens. The matriarchy will pass on to the next matriarchy. Now, understanding that the government is is established as a constitutional matriarchy, that does not mean that the patriarchy will be disrespected, the patriarchy will be dissolved, no. That means that the patriarchy will find their balance again as and take on the true roles that we were born to take on within our tribe, giving our honor and our praise and our devotion and our protection and our loyalty to our matriarchs. The concept of matriarchy exists in the old paradigm. It's just a controlled concept, because all of the high ranking elite in Western society have women running their organizations. They know that they are the best managers, they are the best supervisors, they are the best CEOs, they are the best corporate management and organizers. So they understand the power of the matriarchy, but they want to control it because they fear it. So by establishing this matriarchy, what we're doing is we are setting the record straight, and we are returning something to its natural form that needs to be corrected. We're not allowing the matriarchy to do anything. We are not helping or making. What we're doing is getting out of the way and working to create a space that the matriarchy can work in, so that they're protected, so that they're safe, so that they can do whatever they feel that they need to do, but at the same time, within the boundaries of our governing document, can put together our divine nation. There'll be a lot of conversations about this. There'll be a lot of gatherings and meetings and whatever you want to call it. Our matriarchies will be coming together. Our matriarchs will be coming together and discussing these things, and whatever they come up with that is for the entire kingdom will be put in written form. And if things need to be added to the Constitution or added to any of our other documents, or if a completely new document that is basically for the matriarchy will be developed, it'll come from them. It's very important that we as patriarchs understand this, because the mess that was made on the planet by the patriarchs, the only way that it can be resolved or fixed is if the matriarchs rebalance things. Number 2, all legislative powers shall be vested in a sacred council of 24 governors, with divisions of 9 legacy builders and 13 master builders per council seat. So the power of creating laws, our sacred council of 24 elders or 24 governors will basically establish our laws. with counsel from the Alamam Huda, or our higher appointed, and her council of 13, and we'll get into that, as well as counsel from the High Scarab, which is myself. Again, my job is a vessel. This information, a lot of stuff is flowing through me. Most of it, a lot of it, I'm not even aware of when I wrote it, or when it came through, or where it came from. Sometimes I come up and I read stuff that I've written and don't even remember writing it. So I'm the vessel in this. But because of that, the schools that I've been through, I've been prepared so that I see things that most people won't see. So the most important sight that I've developed is the sight to recognize what the old paradigm is, and what the new paradigm must become, and how to keep the old paradigm out of the new paradigm. That will be my biggest battle in establishing all of this, because until we have groomed a generation of children who have grown up where it's KaLu their first language, not necessarily needing to know the English language, and if they do, way later on in their lives, 7, 8, 9, 10 years old, having an environment where only our language lives. Until we've done that, there's going to always be the concern about KaLu'nan that are naturalized from the old paradigm coming in, wanting to infect the new paradigm. And a lot of times it's not going to be purposeful. It's not going to be with evil intent or anything like that. It'll just be things that they feel that should happen based on what they've experienced, and it's overstanding. Some of the things will be able to work for us, but according to our KaLu Code of Ethics, if it in any way generates an opening for the old paradigm to flow in, we have to avoid it. We have to be vehemently avoid it. So concepts where understanding where there will be places where you can't speak English, like it's not allowed at all. And even if you speak another language, but you cannot speak English, that's one of the most important concepts. So when we come in here and we start doing a lot of discussing, after a certain point, we need to understand that our discussions will have to be in our national tongue. The purpose of English discussions, it's all about spell casting. It's all about ego. It's all about, someone wanting to be right and someone needing to be wrong, and so on and so forth. And that's not what the new paradigm will be built on. Number 3, there are 19 regional branches of government that will be broken down into 11 governing bodies. So each branch will have an appointed first, second, and third architects, a legacy builder, a master builder, a professional builder, a trusted builder, a novice builder, an associate builder, and an apprentice builder. Now these governing bodies will be the councils that govern each one of our regions. And the regions, the 19, are represented by our pillars, and all those pillars are based on principles of what our nation needs to grow, from agriculture, and nature attunement, to spirituality, to culture, language, and education, to architecture and design, to food production, distribution, to science and technology, to health and wellness. All the way around, all of our pillars will be represented as a region. So each region will specialize in one particular area of the 19, but they'll all have components. Each one will have all components of all 19 within them on a small level. The High Scarab, who is the founding entity of our tribe, holds the title of executive consultant over all governing bodies. And basically what that means is my job is to watch the development, the building, the growth of all of the pillars, all of the inner workings of our nation, and just to ensure that the old paradigm doesn't find its way in there. The High Scarab will also have its own council who will assist me in this process. But that council will be very, it's going to have to be a very special breed of KaLu'nan that is picked for that council. 5, all elected appointed will be female, meaning of the age of tribal maturity and well versed in the discipline of the particular area. So the 19 regions, each appointed, every appointed, that title, Mamhuda, is always our matriarchs. So the patriarchs cannot hold that title. That is the highest title in each region, as well as the highest title in our kingdom. The Al Mamhuda, or the high appointed, is our chiefess, our empress, our pharaoh, whatever you want to call the title, but she holds that high position, and her position is very significant. All major and minor governing bodies will have 11 divisions except for the military, and that's something we'll discuss when we get into the actual pillars. In the each regional branch, the kingdom is broken down into 19 regions. We'll find out later on that each region will be able to be broken down to up to 9 zones. But within each region, there will be an elder governor that sits as legal counsel, or as a legislative governor in each pillar. And it will come from the one pillar, which is our government pillar, where there will be 24 elders or 24 governors. Each one of 19 will sit on a council. So they'll travel to that pillar and will be on that pillar, and every so often will come back to the main pillar to report, to give report and things like that, or to bring back issues and concerns, and take back with them things that have come down from the Supreme Council. And there will be 5 remaining that will make up our Supreme Court of Governors. All right. Section 2, the Sacred Council of 24 Governors will comprise our judicial body, with 19 of those 24 seats residing over one of the 19 regional governor branch. Except for the government pillar, all governors dispatched to regional branches will hold a seat as a trusted builder. So that's where they will be at. They will be that trusted builder, one of the trusted builders. The remaining 5 seats will comprise our High Supreme Court. Governor seats are held by our esteemed tribal elders who have reached the age of 52 and have been recommended and have completed the required tribal rituals. Tribal rituals are things that we're developing now that represent rites of passage for all members of KaLu. Everyone who is in KaLu will have to go through some kind of rite of passage. You can't just naturalize and say, just because I know you, that you can become KaLu. Now, most of our family, for the council, all of your family are KaLu by blood relation to you. But to be naturalized as a member, they still will have to go through some sort of a ritual. Whether it's a cleansing, clearing ritual, whether it's a rite of passage, whatever it is. But all of our elders who become members of our council, the governors, they will have to complete the tribal rituals for elders. Each seat of the council of 24 will have a sub-council of 9 legacy builders and 13 master builders. So each one will have their own council. 12 of the 24 seats for the council will be held by tribal matriarchs, and the remaining 12 will be held by tribal patriarchs. So 12 will be male, 12 will be female. Each seat will also be responsible for a specific area of law that is addressed within our nation. All right, so there are a lot of areas that need to be covered, things that need to be studied and mastered, that will represent our interactions with the world around us, as well as things that will focus on what we do within our very own tribe. So we want to get to the point where we are very versed in all areas of law, so that anything that comes up, we're able to address it. Section 3. This is 19. Regional governments will manage subdivisions by way of the council seat sub-councils. All regions will be divided into 9 zones, each managed by a legacy builder who will regulate the judicial principles in each of those zones. The 13 master builders will regulate the legislative components within the zones and regions. So again, 19 regions. Each region will have up to 9 zones. Each zone is managed by a legacy builder. Each region is managed by an appointed. Now, a legacy builder can be male or female. And the legacy builder will regulate all of the judicial principles. The legacy builder themselves will have their own council that will run that zone. And the zone, in order for a zone to exist, and this will probably be something that will be ratified within the Constitution, A zone has to have up to a certain amount of people. In order for a region to be established, there has to be a minimum of 500 KaLu. In order for a zone to be established, there has to be a minimum of 100 KaLu. So as we get, more and more aware of things, what will happen is we'll have regions possibly around the planet. So we may not all be in one area. You may have a region in states in the United States, and you might have a region in Canada. You may have a region in South America. You may have a region in Africa, or a few regions in Africa. You may have a region, even in India or Asia or something like that. So, under the key to understanding how the regions work is that there will be bodies of land. So, if we acquire land in multiple places, then those lands will be divided up into regions or divided up into zones. If we are able to find land that we can put all 19 regions in one body or one area of land, then we'll work with that. And I mean, we have to have it'd have to be a large amount of land. So more than likely, possibly, outside of the United States, but that's in time. Again, we're going to make sure that, we are working towards creating environments so that our posterity is taken care of, but mainly so that we are out of the way of the things that are taking place or will be taking place within the old paradigm. All right. So the Constitution, again, get your constitutions. We're going to go and do further discussion on them over time. We'll have some sit-down gatherings and things like that. We're going to be finishing up the translation of that, and we'll be moving on from there. So, Hatagana Wagut, Tawahatli Wagutut, Nuya Kalunin, Na Akalunin, Wadu.